to No Guilt, Just Growth. I'm Kristen Pomper, wife, coach, and corporate working mom of two. I help ambitious working moms stop running on empty and start building lives they're obsessed with, without the guilt or burnout. I'm on a mission to redefine what success looks like for moms. Because one thing I know for sure, it's not about putting everyone else's needs above your own. If you're ready to stop surviving and start thriving, you're in the right place. Hey gal, welcome back to the show. I am so glad you're here today. If you've ever felt like being a good mom means putting everyone else's needs above your own, like you have to sacrifice your health, your ambitions, your happiness for the sake of your family, then this episode is for you. Today, we are going to be diving into why prioritizing yourself isn't selfish. In fact, it's necessary for you to become the best version of you. The best mom, the best wife, the best employee, the best woman that you can be. I want to start off by asking you a question. Have you ever felt guilty for wanting to spend just an hour to yourself? Maybe you felt needy for wanting to ask for support, whether that be from your spouse or your parents or even your neighbors, so that you could take a nap or squeeze a workout in or take a long hot shower or even grab dinner and drinks with the girlfriends. If so, I just want you to know that you're not alone. I used to think that wanting anything for myself made me a bad mom. I thought that I had to give up everything that made me me to be a good mom. If you listen to the first episode, you know a little bit about my story. After I had my daughter, I struggled really hard with postpartum depression. I was pretty miserable. I was recovering from a long labor. I pushed for almost 6 hours. My husband went back to work after just 5 days of paternity leave. Don't even get me started on that topic. I was running on little to no sleep. I was on a demanding feeding schedule, nursing and pumping every 2 to 3 hours because my daughter's weight had dropped so significantly. And you know what's terrible about all of this is that my story is not all that unique. Sure, there may be some differences or nuances in your own story, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say pretty confidently that you've probably experienced your own version of this nightmare. I've always known I wanted to be a mom. And I daydream so often about all the fun things that I do with my family. But as soon as I started my own, I quickly realized that nothing could have prepared me for the identity shift that came with becoming a mom. Shortly after having my daughter Olivia, I felt like I was crawling out of my own skin. As terrible as it sounds to say out loud, I began to loathe having to be at the beck and call to this tiny little baby. I was no longer Kristen. I was no longer Bobby's wife. I wasn't the confident top sales performer that I once was. I was no longer the competitive athlete or the uplifting phone a friend. I was just mom to this itty bitty baby who couldn't even give me any signs that I was doing a good job or tell me that she loved me. I felt so trapped. I remember thinking to myself, this is not what I thought I had signed up for. I felt really lost. And then the guilt sank in. Guilt for having any of those feelings and thoughts, guilt for wanting to go back to work. I was craving any sort of adult interaction or brain stimulation. I strongly considered shortening my maternity leave and going back to work sooner. So I felt guilty about that. I felt guilty for wanting a break, for asking somebody to look after my daughter for a couple hours so I could just get out of the house and have a moment to myself. I felt guilty for needing more than just being a mom to feel fulfilled. I felt like something was wrong with me for wanting my own life, one separate from my own as a mom. And yet I did nothing because that guilt was crippling. I had a lot of shame and it was paralyzing for me. I just remember feeling trapped in this vicious cycle. I had these emotions, miserable, guilty, anxious, overwhelmed, which gave me little to zero motivation or energy to do anything about it. I picked up some unhealthy habits like drinking and overeating, which only fueled the fire. I did nothing, so nothing improved. And then one day it hit me. I started feeling miserable the moment I had Olivia. But she was never the problem. I was the problem. After I had her, I stopped doing anything for myself. And that's when I realized choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary, especially for moms. Your needs were important before you had kids, but they're even more important now that you have kids. Because let's just call a spade a spade. In most cases, you are the main caregiver. Whether you're a working mom or you stay at home, you carry most of the responsibility when it comes to the kids. And I don't say that as a dig to any dads out there. Some of it is biological, right? If you're breastfeeding, your husband physically cannot do that. But a lot of it is instinctual too. We're more nurturing. And when kids are little, they crave that. So dads, please know that I'm not saying you aren't important. You very much are. But I think you would agree too, in most cases, most families, us moms provide more of the care when it comes to the kids. And that's why it's even more important that your needs are met as the mom. Because when you don't get your needs met, your family, your kids, they suffer. And listen, I know that sounds obvious, but if you're anything like me, as soon as you became a mom, you put everyone else's needs above your own. You pour into everyone else. You show up for your kids, for your spouse, your job, the house, the dog, even before you even think about yourself. And when you do start thinking about yourself, the guilt sinks in. You start to question yourself. I remember thinking, am I a bad mom for wanting something more for myself? If you also find yourself having that train of thought, here's what I would encourage you to think about. When you pour into yourself, you actually show up as the best version of you for the people that you love most. You cannot fully show up for your family, your career, your relationships, or for your goals if you're chronically exhausted, bitter, burnt out, resentful, or running on fumes. The more you invest in yourself, the quicker you become a more present, more patient, more joyful, more fulfilled mom. These are the signs that often come up for me when I'm not getting my own needs met. So if you're experiencing any of these, it may be a sign that you need to invest more time in yourself. Oftentimes when my needs are not met, I find myself easily agitated or irritable. I snap at my kids or my husband more frequently, or I find myself snapping at them over really small, trivial things that usually wouldn't bother me. I find myself feeling resentful about anything and everything. I wake up already tired, even after a decent night's sleep. Not only physically tired, but emotionally and mentally drained too. I'm mentally weak. I find myself saying yes to things I normally wouldn't, or maybe bending my boundaries on things that I typically hold firm. I turn to unhealthy behaviors like over drinking, overeating, or skipping workouts. And overall, I feel like I'm just disappointed and not proud of the mom that I'm showing up as. If any of that sounds familiar, please hear me when I say that you are not broken, you are not weak, and you're sure as hell not a bad mom. In fact, I'm going to argue that it's quite the opposite. You are trying so hard to be an amazing mom, and you are an amazing mom, but you've sacrificed yourself in the process of achieving that. And while your intention is so pure, what I think it's actually doing is it's making you a mom that you're not proud of. One that's snapping, getting easily frustrated, and burning out. I think the way to fix that is to incorporate some intentional self-prioritization because you deserve to feel good in your life. Not like just when you're on vacation or someday when life gets less chaotic or when the kids are out of the house or when they go to school or this, futuristic time. You deserve to feel good right now and every single day. So this is a really powerful mind shift that changed the game for me. I want you to picture your kids as adults with their own families. Let's say you have a daughter. She's all grown up. She just had her first baby. It's your first grandchild. If your daughter was showing up in the exact way that you are today, would you be happy with that? Is she prioritizing everyone else's needs at the expense of her own? Do you want her to think that she has to give up all of her goals and ambitions in order to have a family? Do you want her to believe that to be a good mom, it comes at the expense of herself? How you show up for yourself is setting the tone for her future and what's possible. Or maybe you have a son. I want you to picture that him and his wife just welcomed their firstborn. Does he expect his wife to sacrifice herself to show up as a quote unquote good mom? Does he sit back and relax because his mom took care of everything, neglecting her own needs so that she could make sure everyone else's were met? I know it might not seem like it, but he's watching how you show up, and that's teaching him how he should step up for his wife in the future. You have to understand that you are paving the way. You are setting an example for your kids. They are drawing conclusions on what things should be like based on what they see. So give yourself permission to take care of yourself, to be selfish with your time, to ask for help if you need it. When you say yes to yourself, you're saying yes to showing up better for them. Whatever you are modeling is what they will grow up to believe defines successful parenthood. So I just encourage you to ask yourself, are you practicing what you want of them in their future? We have to live what we want our kids to learn. Okay, so here's a few recommendations that you can start today. I want you to start small and start intentionally. Choosing yourself doesn't have to mean making these like giant sweeping changes overnight. I think about it just like a New Year's resolution. If you try to do too much all at once, you are going to burn out. Let's say that you want to lose weight. As soon as the new year hits, you commit to going to the gym every single day, and you're going to go for 2 hours and lift as heavy as you've ever lifted and run longer than you've ever ran before. And on top of that, you're going to cut your calories in half and only eat whole foods, nothing processed, and you're going to eliminate sweets and booze. And what happens? You call it quits after, well, for me, that would be like day 2. But it's unsustainable, right? You probably call it quits after the first week. So depending on where you are right now from a self-care perspective, I just want you to make one incremental shift. Remember this, small choices compound over time. But here's the thing, it works both ways. Small positive changes over time compound in a positive direction, and you'll be able to use that momentum into every area of your life. But small negative choices over time compound in the wrong direction. And the longer you neglect yourself, the harder it is going to be to get that ball rolling. So take this as a sign to start small today. Another reminder I always like to keep in mind is remember your why. This one is especially helpful for me as a people pleaser. If you can't get your head around doing something purely for you, which I hope that you can, but if you can't, I want you to reframe it like this. You're not choosing yourself for you. You're choosing yourself for the family that needs you whole. If you won't do it for yourself, do it for them. Remember the powerful example that you're setting. They're watching and they're learning based on what they see, not on what they hear. And then lastly, this really helped me when I started prioritizing myself. I want you to realize that prioritizing yourself does not mean neglecting your family. If you're anything like me, when you first start to do things for yourself, doubt is going to creep in because you have this mentality that whenever you're prioritizing yourself, you think it's taking time away that could be spent with your family. But here's the thing. It's not about choosing yourself instead of your family. It's not an either or thing. They're directly correlated to each other. You choose yourself so that you can show up better for your family. When you prioritize yourself, you show your kids and your spouse what success as a mom looks like. And success as a mom isn't endless sacrifice. It's strength. It's having the wherewithal to recognize that your needs are important and the courage to ask for what you need to meet them. Okay, so hopefully by now I've convinced you that you are worthy of being on the top of your own list. Now, let's talk through some practical examples. Again, small decisions every day. And again, this is very dependent on where you are right now. But let's say that you're not getting any of your needs met. I would ask of you to take a simple 10-minute walk outside. Maybe it's getting dressed in the morning. I don't know about you, but during COVID, there were days where I did not get out of my pajamas and I was not nearly as productive. So maybe it's just as simple as getting dressed. I spent most of my maternity leave in my pajamas. Maybe that's why I was so miserable. It could be drinking your coffee before it gets cold, or maybe it's calling a friend that always seems to lighten your mood. It could be taking a long shower in peace. You know, that scalding hot, wash your face, shave your legs, throw in a shower bomb, pamper yourself shower. Take one of those. Right now, she started to like showers. So for me, a solo shower is a luxury. It could also be saying no to a work commitment that infringes on your family time. Or maybe it's scheduling therapy or a coaching session or just a solo Target run because you deserve time for yourself. During my maternity leave, I remember texting Bobby like, "Hey babe, when are you going to be home? I just really want to go to Target." And he would say, "Oh, what do we need on the way? I'll just go grab it." And I just remember telling him like, "No, I need to go to the store. I just need to get out of the house and walk around." And that was my me time. Every one of those small choices adds up. They refill your cup. Whatever your thing is, maybe it's painting or journaling, scrapbooking, gardening. You know you best. I just want you to incorporate more and more time doing things that light you up. Okay, before I wrap it up today, I want to spend a minute talking about how to effectively vocalize asking for help so that you can take some time for yourself. Let's say that you're going to ask your significant other for help. First things first, he cannot read your mind. Even if you have been with this person for decades, you need to communicate your needs. And more specifically, you need to let him know what's required of him so that he can meet them. Be specific and ask kindly. I want you to think of how you would want to be asked if the roles were reversed. I'm not a big script gal, but here's something along the lines of what I've said to Bobby before. "Hey babe, I have been feeling really overwhelmed lately, and I haven't spoken up about it because I kind of feel guilty even for asking. I think it's because I've been putting everyone else's needs first, especially Liv's, and not taking care of my own. I'm realizing that I need time to recharge so I can show up as the best version of myself for all of us. Will you own bath and bedtime tonight so that I can take a quiet bath myself and read my book?" I honestly just don't envision a scenario where your husband doesn't step up to that occasion. In your ask, avoid accusatory, passive-aggressive language. It's not about blaming or pointing fingers. Keep the focus on you, not them. So avoid things like, "Sure would be nice if you took over bath time once in a while." I personally would not respond well to that if Bobby were to ask me in that way. And then after he helps, I want you to express your appreciation for it. Positive reinforcement seriously works wonders. Something like, "Hey babe, thank you so much for taking care of bath and bedtime. It really meant a lot to me and I'm already feeling better. I really appreciate you." If you want your husband to continue to do those types of things, that reinforcement is going to help. Okay, so here's what I want to leave you with. You don't have to choose between your family and yourself. You don't have to apologize for needing more than motherhood to feel complete. You were never meant to disappear inside of motherhood. You were meant to expand in the best, most powerful version of yourself. Prioritizing yourself will always make you a better mom. When you choose yourself consistently and unapologetically, you're not just changing your life, you're changing your family's legacy. Imagine your kids growing up believing that their needs matter, that joy is a priority, that dreams are meant to be chased, that love doesn't require self-sacrifice. That all starts with you. It starts with your small daily choices. Motherhood is really, really hard, but I promise you it gets easier when you stop neglecting yourself in the process. And choosing yourself is the first step to mastering this season of your life and every season after it. In our next episode, we are going to dig even deeper into a topic that holds so many of us moms back, and that's mom guilt. I talked about it a little bit in this episode. I'll share exactly how to recognize it, how to overcome it, and how to start replacing it with power, purpose, and joy. Thank you so much for listening today. If this episode resonated with you, it would mean the world to me if you shared it with another mom who might need to hear it. I would also be so appreciative if you would do me a favor and subscribe to the podcast. Subscribing helps me reach more moms just like you, and it ensures that you will never miss an episode. I hope this week you will put yourself at the top of your own list. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.